Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this week's hangout and discussion. Now, you'll notice I'm here by myself today. That is because Holly is unavailable, and I figured, you know what? It's a good opportunity to just hang out. This is how the show had originally started, and we're going to turn down the music just a tad there, or by a tad, I mean quite a bit. This is how the show started, and this is how we're gonna go, right? So we have tons of things to talk about. Exodus in particular, obviously, was sort of the focus, as we're gonna walk our way through some of the new details and information that was given. Exodus, for those of you who don't know, something I'm very excited for. I got this to read through. I have barely started it yet. I'm not that far in, but I do have the first book for Exodus, and you could check it out for yourselves if you're interested. It is hefty. By comparison, this is the Lord of the Rings, right? So on the bottom is Lord of the Rings, which Lord of the Rings is comprised of 3 books, by the way, technically speaking. So that's 3 books. This, the top one is Exodus. That's just 1 book. So it is chunky. I should have done it that way. It is a hefty read, but that's because it's super dense with a lot of lore, a lot of world building. Apparently there's supposed to be 3 of these, I think, and the second one is in the works and possibly releasing soon. So, got a lot to get through there. Should really be sitting down for like an hour a day if I want to get through that minimum. But I am excited for Exodus. It looks really cool. And of course, the heavy Mass Effect inspirations between Mass Effect 4, between Exodus, and of course, Expanse Osiris Reborn. There's a lot of stuff for sci-fi nerds and geeks and fans to really be looking forward to. Okay, we're getting spoiled, baby, and I love it. Welcome, Bobby. Are you solo like Han Solo? Yeah, that's what I would say. I'm not as suave. I don't have the moves, and also I can't do the head thing that he does to avoid Greedo's shot. It's a really weird thing. Why did George Lucas go in and edit to CGI his head to move like that? It was absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely and utterly ridiculous. I don't know half the edits why George Lucas thought it. All the CGI stuff honestly takes away more than it adds to any of the original films. Any of them. Horrible mistake, George, but listen, you started freaking Star Wars, so I guess we gotta give you a pass on that one. I was just thinking about starting Mass Effect again. Do it. I've been stuck on a phase where I've wanted to play Mass Effect. Let me tell you, I have wanted so badly to play Mass Effect again, and I think about, okay, I have Dispatch is coming out October 28th, which is really fun. Assassin very graciously had gifted me Battlefield 6. It was incredibly kind. I was having a absolutely wild week, and then I get home, we're trying to play games as a group, the podcast crew, and I told him, I was like, I can't get Battlefield 6 right now, and he just says, yep, now you can, go ahead. So I've been playing a bunch of Battlefield 6. I have Dispatch that is coming out that I really want to get into. I have Frontiers of Pandora, which I've been playing through. I have Skyrim, which that playthrough I was really getting into and I put on hold, and I really want to keep going into it because I've never beaten Skyrim before, which is just laughable, but that's part of the fun. The fact that I could keep playing it over and over and still love it is just part of the freaking fun, man. That's why I enjoy it. Starting new characters, going to the world, role-playing is so different. I love it. I love it. So that, that's something that's going on, and a myriad of other games as well. I've wanted to play through Baldur's Gate 3 so badly again. I love it, and there's so much choice and consequence in that game. So adding another one in there. Eesh. Dragon Quest 3. The HD, did they do the HD 2D remake? 3D 2.5D remake for Dragon Quest 3? I know they've been doing. I have a friend, a good friend from my college days. He loves Dragon Quest, and not the type of guy that you would expect to love Dragon Quest at all. He's this really giant dude, huge guy, rugby player, massive. Not the type of person you'd think would A, be playing a lot of video games, and B, Dragon Quest out of all of them. But he loves them. He's trying to get me into them. These new remakes seems like a great way to do that. Have to play it in the greatest way ever on the PlayStation 3. I never owned a PlayStation. If it's on the PS2, I can. I have a PS2. I still have one. But unfortunately, I can't do it that way on a PS3. Didn't like it as much. Fuzzy, was it because it felt slower to you by any chance? Was it because it felt slower paced? Because they did slow things down from the beta. Because Battlefield players were upset that it felt too fast-paced. That was too quick. Oh, Skyrim! Well, I still have my original copy. In fact, not only that, I got two. I have Games for Windows Edition and Xbox 360 Edition. And these babies, these suckers, they're fresh. This still has, like, the pristine map in there. Untouched. And of course, can never... What is this? Oh. Here you go. Ad for Prey 2. And EO user manual. Mwah, love these things. Maybe I'll auction that off. This PC copy of Skyrim for people who don't have disk drives anymore in their computers. Yep, now the shelf's all messed up. It's fine. Anyway. Don't like the gunplay as much. That's fine. You know, I like the gunplay because I like the recoil. You have to burst fire. You really can't just... And that's what you do in Call of Duty. But I get it. There's a game, and I like that there's something for both players, and I really hope that, like, they stay that way, honestly, because that is one of the beautiful things. But we're not going into Battlefield. Now, Battlefield, I guess I could just say, we talked a little bit about it on Tuesday, but there was, it's doing massive number, like 7+ million copies sold within 3 days. It's the biggest launch for Battlefield ever. Super exciting stuff. And honestly, it just goes to show... The only thing I'm nervous about with Battlefield is when the microtransactions come, and they will come, they're going to hit hard, and that is going to suck for Battlefield. It depends on how crazy they go with them. Obviously, they said they're going to stay realistic, and that's a good thing. But ultimately, I do worry about how it will sort of taint the experience a bit, because I've said it on Tuesday on Red Wolf Renegade, on the Renegade Realm podcast. The thing that's so nice about Battlefield now is you go into the game and it's just, here's the menu. And then you find the mode you want to play in, or you go to the campaign and then you hit launch and you're in a game. There's no pop-ups for cosmetics and the battle pass in this store and this premium currency and that. None of that is present. And it's so unbelievably refreshing in a multiplayer title. So unbelievably refreshing. Speaking of multiplayer titles, this was a really, really upsetting piece of news. For a lot of people, the reaction has not been that positive to this. And I completely understand why. Quantic Dream has announced that they are going to be making a new PvP 3v3 action strategy game, Spellcasters. Now, for those of you who don't know who Quantic Dream are, those are the folks that were working on Star Wars Eclipse. Now, Star Wars Eclipse, we have not heard from since 2021 was when the trailer came out. And then it has been cricket. The only update we've gotten since then has really been, yes, we're still working on it. And it's crazy to say that we've actually seen more. I say it's crazy to say. It's crazy that we live in a world where we've seen more of, I was going to say Elder Scrolls 6, but that was announced in 2018 and has been silent since. But we know more about Elder Scrolls 6 than we do about Star Wars Eclipse, which is, I guess it shouldn't be wild to me, but for some reason it is. So they're working on this brand new PvP game. Immediately, everybody started going, what's going on with Eclipse? What's going on with Eclipse? Now, they have stated that they are working on Star Wars Eclipse. They did clarify and say that's still in the works, but right now, this is the focus. And they do have a new trailer for it that they released today. And it's basically a MOBA game. I mean, you can see here, I think a lot... This game is going to have a lot. I'll go into the issues that I see for this one in just a bit. But, needless to say, folks aren't happy. Now, as you can see, there, you summon these big titans, you kind of play as a spellcaster, and it looks like there's cool effects, right? You're kind of flying around on this map, giant battles that are going on. He's setting this forest on fire, which is pretty neat, especially if these kind of dynamically catch to other trees in this map, right? Cool spell effects going on, and you're kind of surveying this battlefield, flying around, but ultimately... And then you also get these giant titans that you call into battle, and your goal is to defeat this tower. Each team has one of these towers, and your goal is to kind of get to the other side of the map and try to destroy that. You can see, of course, they're going kind of for this Marvel Rivals style. Most people, not most people, but a lot of people are kind of equating it to Concord, which is not the comparison that you want to hear when you're like, hey, we have that cool Star Wars IP, we could do this awesome license game, but, we're doing this, and people immediately start jumping to Concord. I would equate it more to Marvel Rivals, and they're trying to set up this lore, right? They got these giant titans in the background, some mystical creatures that are going on. But you look, ultimately... You kind of look at the character design. Like, these are their main spellcasters, and they're very unassuming. Her you saw flying around in the trailer. You have this astral monk. And I'm not saying they're bad character designs. I'm just saying that they're very forgettable, in my honest opinion. Like, he looks cool-ish, right? I like the tattoos. I like the hair color and the... blue and the black, but I think, listen, Marvel Rivals is the comparison I would go to, right? Because not only did Marvel Rivals share a very similar art style to it, but it was a brand new PvP competitive game that entered into the market, and it was in a space where, mind you, Overwatch was in decline at the time. Overwatch 2 was doing very poorly and has been very poorly received. I haven't seen any... They've done tons of updates since that game launched, but I never see any chatter about it, at least not in the way that Overwatch 1 did. But at the bare minimum, Marvel Rivals came in and proved that you could have a competitive multiplayer free-to-play game release and compete in an oversaturated live service market, because we are looking at things like Concord. You're looking at games such as, for example, Jump Ship that just released, or one that Holly and I had tried for one session, and I can't even remember the name, but it was very similar to Jump Ship, and you were kind of it was a 3v3 space fighter, and then you had to get through a portal. You had to get an artifact and then get through a portal at the end, right? Kind of an extraction space shooter thing going on. You had the Hogwarts Quidditch game, for anybody who remembers that. That you had to pay for, but that was another multiplayer competitive live service game. So there's a ton of these that are entering the market. Very few succeed. Marvel Rivals comes out and it surprises everybody. but it had two things going for it. Two really big things. One is its freaking Marvel characters, all right? Like, that in and of itself is a massive deal, and it's not necessarily quantifiable, the impact. Maybe some person can start building out a spreadsheet, but the math is simple. You're working with established characters. You're not trying to establish a new universe with... They don't even have names. With Swamp Witch. Right? With Iron Sorcerer. The very memorable Iron Sorcerer. And I don't mean to poo-poo all over Quantic Dream. Not by any means, because I know, look, it's difficult to make a game, but this in no way saved lives. Now, the second reason why Marvel Rivals also had very, very successful launch is because they went for sex appeal. They did, right? And if you look at the top skins for any of the female characters, 9 out of 10 of them are revealing in some way. You have Magic, you got some, some thighs going on. You have Black Widow, but all of her outfits are somewhat, like, less revealing here, right? You have a bunch of male characters. Scarlet Witch, hers is 125% versus 20%, where, again, a little bit more revealing on that skin. We can keep looking around. Storm, this one was interesting to me, but I get why this bright purple, especially from a competitive game. You probably don't want to be going around in that, right? That bright purple, very flashy. Hela, her kind of tightest skin is the most popular, so on and so forth, right? I don't think I need to keep going through these. But of course, it was the most notorious of all, which here, Luna Snow, another example. Emma Frost, that's just her entire character design. Right, I don't need to keep going. The most notorious of all was being Invisible Woman, and you could see, quite literally, I think this was from the beach set, because they did do a beach-themed set of outfits, and that's her most popular, followed by the Malice skin, which, I'm not gonna exaggerate and say it broke the internet, right, but that one really took a lot of people by storm. So they had those two things going for it, and I don't quite think that Mystic Scribe and Astral Monk and Iron Sorcerer have that going for them. You take those two things, recognizable IP, and kind of going for that other, you sort of are fighting a losing battle there, in my honest opinion. Now, is it going to be a good game? Possibly, right? Because the one cool thing about it is that you are kind of taking, it looks like a MOBA, if you've ever played League of Legends or any similar type of game. Looks like they're doing that in a 3D space. There's been other, like I think Smite sort of took that approach too. But this one looks a lot more dynamic, where you're flying around, looks a lot more grand. I would also say that the art style really doesn't help. Yes, did it work for Marvel Rivals? Sure. But when people are going to look at something like Concord, and that's where the comparisons start coming in, not what you're hoping for, especially with the launch of it. And then if you just take a look at some of the responses here, you have Andre, my favorite game genre, financial failure. Hell no, I was hoping for another masterpiece. Keep in mind, these are the people who made Detroit Become Human is Quantic Dream, right? So pretty legendary when it comes to the first, the story-driven single-player experiences. Hard for me to believe David Cage wanted to create this. So long as Free Will New Masters looks generic, by the way, can go either way on this, a little bit more positive. Nobody asked for this. Destiny Smite 2, DOA, congrats, no. Right, so generally it's mixed to negative praise, and I hope Quantic Dream knows what they're doing. You can register for the closed beta if you are interested. End of 2025, people will start, being able to give their experience. But you do need very high specs, which certainly didn't help. is you do need very high specs to run this. A GTX or RTX 3070, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and an i5 CPU in order to run that, which is pretty high for a game such as this one. Which, again, especially when you look at the art style of it, not what people want to see. Now, they do clarify on their website, this is because it's early access and closed beta, so the technical specs they're asking for are higher than what the game actually is going to need at launch. But just, again, not really the way that you want to kick it off. So that's what's going on with Quantic Dream. Again, I hate to poo-poo all over it. I would love if it comes out and is a stellar success. If the audience that this is intended for, like, for example, a Grounded from Obsidian, right? I think best case scenario, we could probably agree that it comes out and people go, damn, Quantic Dream creating this multiplayer game that I didn't expect. Mind you, Grounded isn't live service. Big difference. But there you go. And I also think it would be nice if they had given some updates about Star Wars Eclipse, and then, like what Obsidian did, where Obsidian had other projects, we knew there were other projects in the works, and then they said, hey, we're also doing this other thing. I would have liked to see some updates about Star Wars, and then they kind of say, hey, we're also doing this more experimental with a smaller team. They wanted to work on this game. It's out there. They're big fans of that genre. So there you go. Anyway, so thick thighs save lives. Yes, exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Bobby. Yeah, there's a small chance it might be good. There's a chance, right? I don't want to poo-poo all over. Like, listen, it's easy to sit here and be like, oh, it looks like garbage. To some people, it absolutely will. That's fine. But, I think just when you have an established studio that you're a big fan of working on a game that's very far from that, it's hard, at least initially, to say, that looks good. Right? Because, of course, people are expecting Star Wars or another Detroit-style game and getting that. There's a small chance it might be good. Grounded is a top 5 game this gen for me. Grounded is a top 5 game for a lot of people, actually. A lot of people. So, it's good. I like to see when studios do experiment, but there were some people too, just to get ahead of this as well. There were some people that were bringing up another title called Dustborn. Dustborn was published by Quantic Dream, but it was kind of a failed PvE. The director of the game came out and said it really didn't meet expectations. So there's that. But Quantic Dream, from the development front, is jumping in, trying to take a second stab at online title. We'll see how it goes. All right, Dead Space 4. Dead Space 4. I will be the first to admit I have never played Dead Space. It's on my to-do list to get into the Dead Space remake that is on my backlog. I absolutely want to experience, and honestly, we're getting a spooky season. Night's coming sooner. It's getting dark really quick, so no better time to hop in to a scary game like Dead Space. But I haven't gotten around to it. However, due to the brand new sale of EA, which is under some scrutiny, by the way, people are saying that that we should really be looking into the sale for the legality of it and if it should go through. I don't see why, in this instance, a company going from public to private would ever be scrutinized necessarily by a government organization, other than the sense that the ones who are buying into it are the Saudi Arabian government. So maybe that is the reason why they get the US government gets a little bit more involved in this sale. However, there's up for grabs. So I'm trying to make sure that I get this right. So up for grabs is the possibility to sell some of the IPs, and in particular, what Glenn Schofield is hoping for is Dead Space. And he has already been trying to make some calls in order to make this happen. So he has quite a few ideas for what he wants to make next, one of them being Dead Space 4. There's an opportunity to make it happen. So obviously nothing is on the table, but he's already making calls to try to get it to. And if anyone's going to do it, I feel like Glenn absolutely can make this happen, especially given the popularity of Dead Space. If EA is going to just sit on the IP, might as well sell it, get some money for that. And on top of that, what I will say, one of the most interesting things about all of this is EA needs the money. Bad. Because they need to pay off $55 billion. Yeah. $55 billion they need to pay back before the interest. So they have quite an uphill battle. Now, this was done, and we talked about this, I think it was 2 episodes ago. We talked about this is a special kind of deal where basically Saudi Arabian government, which they have their own, the official name, and then the others, the other investment companies who made this deal happen, they effectively have no liability. EA has all of the responsibility to make it up. So, therefore, they might be incentivized either A, to make a new Dead Space game, maybe, or B, they sell off the IP in order to try to collect back some of that debt and get themselves back on track. Any $50 billion purchase should be looked at. I don't disagree. However, this is taking a company private, right? So it's a lot different than, say, Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard, right? Because that is a consolidation of 2 public companies. That's a lot of a bigger deal. That's a lot of a bigger disruption than just having one company say, actually, we're going to sell off our shares, or buy them back rather, and then, we're going to go a different way. One has a lot more concern for monopolization of the industry, and sort of taking over control. The other one is less of a threat in that regard. So EA has $20 billion in debt that they've took on in order to make this sale happen. Now, the interesting thing is there is popularity behind Dead Space. So some people may not remember, but I had the article. John Carpenter. Now, for those of you who don't know who John Carpenter is, that's good because neither do I. He's a director, and he previously had ideas to make a Dead Space game. So, if we take a look, or a Dead Space movie, excuse me. And he's a big fan of the series too, so it's exactly the type of person that you want to see take on such a project. But in this interview, this came out in 2023. It's January 13th, 2023. So over 2 years ago now. But he had mentioned that he is not involved, but kind of let something slip. So specifically, when are you going to do it? I'm not going to do it. I think they already have another director involved, and they haven't asked me. So until someone asks me, I wouldn't do it. But there's a new version of the Dead Space video game coming out January, and I'm there. The most interesting thing saying, I think they already have another director involved, right? So we kind of let slip that there is some kind of Dead Space project in the works. Now, naturally, with the EA sale, this becomes a bit of a different story for the sole reason that they might scrap it altogether. They might say, hey, listen, we're just not interested in making a film on this, especially if they plan on selling the rights. That puts a lot of things in flux. And when Glenn wants to make a new Dead Space movie or a new Dead Space game, it pulls into question one of two things. Either I could see a situation where EA releases a Dead Space film and it does critically very well, and they say, actually, we're holding on to this, in which case they probably will want to make a new game. If not, at the bare minimum, another remake, which, mind you, the remake did very, very well. I don't know the exact sales of the Dead Space remake, Let's see if I can't find it real quick. It seems as though, just trying to take a look really quick, it seems as though EA had higher ambitions, which, yeah, it greatly underperformed the projected 4 to 5 million sales expected from it. They sold about, oh no, sorry, that is for Callisto Protocol. So Dead Space Remake top sales chart, but tracking behind the Callisto Protocol. This is an article from February 2023, and Callisto Protocol sold 2 million, but was under the projected 4 to 5 million. So Dead Space, assuming it was around that range, but that of course is a remake, right? So it's not always going to do as well as a brand new IP. So there you go. It sold pretty well. Yeah, that's what I remember. I remember, without having specific numbers available, that they said, hey, it did pretty good, but we're not doing another, which was strange. Most people went, why? So a couple things can happen. Either they make this movie because it's still in the works, EA releases it, EA still retains the rights, movie does well, and they say, all right, we're going to make another game, whether it is a Dead Space 2 remake or they let Glenn work on Dead Space 4. So either way, good for Glenn. If it does bad, they put the IP dormant, possibly choose to sell it to help with some of the debt that they've just incurred, and then a new studio buys Dead Space, sees the potential, and goes, yeah, we'll do another, and Glenn Schofield gets to make another Dead Space. Both situations good. The concern being EA is just going to sit on the IP and let it rot away in a vault somewhere, which unfortunately is also a possibility. People definitely would have bought Dead Space 2 because I remember buying the deluxe version of Dead Space 2. Well, people would have bought Dead Space 2 because they like Dead Space 1, right? And Dead Space 1 sold well, by all accounts. Therefore, they would have bought it. Comes with a little gun. That is cool. I miss the days. I miss the days where collector's editions were affordable for me. They're not anymore. The only collector edition of a game I actually bought was for Arkham Origins, which came with that statue right there. And it is cool. All those TVs, it's from the scene in the game, and all those TVs actually light up. But that's the only collector's edition I've ever gotten. I'm thinking about getting the collector's edition for Exodus, because that comes with a cool little version of the spaceship, and also possibly a collector's edition for the Expanse game, because that also comes with a cool little statue, and I want both of them. Probably for Mass Effect 4, maybe, and Elder Scrolls 6. I feel like that one's a must. Anyway, so that's what's going on with Dead Space. Really cool news. I hope Dead Space gets more. I'm really looking forward to it, but we'll have to see. The Skyrim Deluxe Edition came with the Dragon book holder. I have been very tempted to buy a second-hand Alduin statue that had released. I never bought it, but I would really like it, and I would like to stick it right on the shelf and have it. I don't have that Skyrim statue of Alduin's wall, or of a word wall with Alduin on it. It's really cool. People, you can sell them. Too bad the guy isn't going to try to make Callisto Protocol 2 is not happening, unfortunately. Which I know some people really liked it. That was Bloober. Bloober has always been a studio that releases games. They look visually impressive, conceptually insanely sound, and then the game themselves, like the gameplay itself, is always... right? It's always like, it's good. It's a little bit frustrating. Now, for those of you in chat, for those of you that are watching, I was actually going to kick the show off with this. But I do have a question. The ROG Ally. Is it an Xbox? And also, why the hell do we care whether it is or isn't? Bloober? Callisto Protocol wasn't Bloober. See, this is why I need my co-hosts, because it was by striking down... Oh, that was Crafton. My bad. Crafton. My stance still stays behind Bloober. That was Crafton. That's correct. Thank you for correcting me. Thank you for correcting me, Fuzzy. This is why I need a co-host, because I don't remember all these small things. Put me on Elder Scrolls, put me on some Bethesda news, and I will nail most of it. Throw me on something like Callisto Protocol. I mean, I never played the game, so there's my excuse. The ROG Ally is an Xbox, and why do we care? It could be a Game Boy for all I care. That's my... So apparently, this is huge news. I didn't want this to be a long segment of the show. Hey, Dom, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Hello there. I saw that you had cool things coming. I saw on your socials that you had some fun things coming. I'm excited to see what that is, brother. Yeah, I've seen a lot of discourse, and I feel like this is just from the extremists, maybe. I don't know. I didn't want to spend too long here because I think the argument is completely and utterly ridiculous. Who the hell cares? If the ROG Ally is an Xbox or it's not an Xbox, what the F does it matter? Can you play games on it? Can you play the games you want on it? And how does it perform? If it's an Xbox or not an Xbox, does it make that much of a difference? Does it really make that much of a difference? We all know the answer is no. We all know that the answer is no. And I see people going back and forth, and it's about the operating system that it runs on. It's about the buttons that are on it. It's about this, it's about that. It seems really silly. It's just a rogue ally with the Xbox symbol. As far as I know, that's all it is. With a bit better performance, to my understanding of it. But it's a handheld. And even then, wouldn't Xbox, even just if you think about it logically, right? Xbox isn't... It's the ROG Ally. Yeah? The ROG Xbox Ally X. So they threw Xbox in the name. ROG Xbox Ally. Does that make it an Xbox because it has Xbox in the name? Sure. End of discussion. Just buy a PC, it's the future. Assassin and I had a very long argument about this, or I say argument, a long discussion about this on Twitter. Through, private messages. But we don't live in a generation where it's that complicated to have a PC. If you, the argument between consoles and PC has always been a matter of, if you want simplicity, buy a console. You want plug and play, buy a console. PCs basically work that way now, right? And you think about the process of buying a PC versus buying a console. If you get a console, you go to the store, you pick it up, or you have it mailed to you. You plug it in, you hook it up to your TV, and then you turn it on, you go through some setup. Maybe you need a new account. Maybe you log into your existing account. And then you download a bunch of games, and then it works. On a PC, you go to the store, or you have it mailed to you. You plug it into your monitor instead of a TV. Or, if you want, you can plug it into a TV as well. You sign in, maybe create a new account if you need one. You download some games, and then you play them. Especially if you're playing through the Microsoft Store. It's going to come pre-installed if you have a Windows operating system, right? So there really is such a marginal difference between consoles and PCs now. You get more benefit out of a PC. I'm not someone who goes, PC must race. I just see inherent benefits to playing on PC and to gaming on PC. I also see the luxury of kicking back on a console. You grab your Xbox controller, you stick your feet up on your coffee table. I'm going to put them up on the desk here, and you go, bloop, 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 bloop. Right? And with the big TV screen, and you're sitting nice and far away from it, comfortable in a couch versus a gaming chair. I get it. I understand. I love consoles. I think they're great. I think they're fantastic. But when you have console hardware that's going up in price as much as it is, the next generation Xbox is going to be, what, $800, $900 is the current speculation. That's their higher end model. You can buy a PC. That was the other thing, was it was cost inhibitive to buy PC. That's not really the case anymore. You can buy I just found several that were like $700 to $800 PCs. They had 3060s to 3080s in them, which is still by all means a good graphics card, right? We just saw how on the beta for Quantic Dreams game, we just saw how they wanted at least a 3060, and people were going, 3060, that's really high, right? So the 3000 series of cards is still good. You can get a $700-800 PC, and it'll run all the games you want. Probably still better settings than a console. PlayStation controller, you can stick your feet up. Relax while you game. Listen, I got both here, baby. I got both these suckers. I love it. I like this place. I like the DualSense more. Xbox, I love you. You're great. But the DualSense, I'm a sucker for gimmicks, and this has a lot of gimmicks in it. This one has a lot of gimmicks in it. So anyway, I don't care if the Xbox Ally is an Xbox or it's not an Xbox. It says Xbox in the name, so I'm going to call it an Xbox. Now, given they had to do that, right, because that's part of the branding. Honestly, if I were Xbox, I would want it to be a separate thing. I would say no. I mean, everything's an Xbox. That's based on their marketing campaign. So that's also why technically it would be an Xbox, because marketing. But I'd want it to be a separate thing. It's a stupid argument anyway. I would hope that most of us can agree that it's a stupid argument. Sup, everyone? Hey, King Styles, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Welcome. Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, so we have a little bit of time left to go into our last topic, which I am very, very excited for, because this is a game that I have pretty high expectations on, all things considered. Simply because it's a lot of talented people that's working on this project. So this is a new developer diary has come out for Exodus. For those of you who don't know what Exodus is, it's a brand new sci-fi RPG. It's taking inspiration from the likes of Mass Effect, and well, they actually answer some of those questions here. But it's taking inspiration from Mass Effect, from Horizon, actually, in a minor way, and from Metroid, the Metroid games as well. They say are the three bigger games that come to mind when they think about how they're developing Exodus. The cool thing about this is that it is a little bit of space fantasy. It's a epic spanning space opera similar to Mass Effect. There's, an ancient race called the Remnant. That's actually what he's fighting there, or the Celestials, excuse me. And wait, there's Remnant and Celestials. There's a really dense lore. I say, getting confused by all three factions here. Excuse me, but there's Celestials, and there's the Celestials are sort of this ancient alien race that are there. And then also, it takes place in a world where humanity has colonized the stars long enough that they've branched into other species altogether, basically. And those new species of human think of themselves almost as gods among regular humans. Which is very cool conceptually to me, as far as a sci-fi setting goes. You play as a traveler, and one of the cool gimmicks about Exodus is that it does deal with elements that Mass Effect never touched upon, such as time dilation. So you go out on missions, and when you come back to certain locations, time has passed. Your companions, your family, your friends, they will have gotten older since you went out on a mission and came back due to time dilation, which in and of itself presents a very interesting level of choice and consequence that you need to deal with. So Couple very cool new bits of information that came from this. First off, as I mentioned, their inspirations, of course, Mass Effect. I'm very glad that the team at Archetype don't stray away from those comparisons, if for no other reason than, I mean, people love Mass Effect, right? So they're not trying to say it's a complete opposite situation of what happened with, say, I'm blanking on the name. Give me a second. The BioWare game. I'm blanking on the name. Yikes. The mech suit game that came from BioWare that nobody wanted, that didn't perform well. This is what happens when you live stream and you're trying to like go on the off the cuff on the fly. Sometimes that happens. But you all know the one. It didn't do well. It completely flopped from BioWare. And instead of what they did, Anthem. Thank you, Fuzzy Tomato. Anthem. So instead of what Anthem did, which was try to avoid all of the comparisons to Destiny, avoid all the comparisons to other similar looking titles, Archetype, working on Exodus, are welcoming the comparisons to Mass Effect. And they even said, yeah, we're trying to do our own thing, but yes, that is a big thing. And you see it in the gameplay when they do have sections of gameplay. So I like that. The Metroid part was interesting because they're trying to get sort of this instance where you go back to locations and you have new technology to get to different, right? This Metroidvania aspect to the game, which I always think is very cool. And additionally, they are also saying it's similar to Horizon, and that's sort of more in the game combat sense, where you will be trying to match elemental types to certain enemies. So they might have a resistance or they might have a weakness that you choose to exploit, and so you're going between different element types in order to take advantage of that, and they'll have strengths and weaknesses accordingly, which I'm all for that. They mentioned when thinking about sort of the technology in the game, they have the base gun that you get is called the Recycler, and scavengers use it to transform scrap into craftable resources, but then also it can operate as different weapons. It transforms itself into different weapons, and there is a little section where they kind of show that off if we pull it up here. So you can see it actually transforming there in this clip. That I really like as well, just because I wonder how much variety you can get from transforming that weapon, and is there separate upgrade paths for it? Is there different customization and attachments that you could use for both? Or will it sort of work like the Guardians of the Galaxy? If anyone's played Guardians of the Galaxy, Star-Lord's guns that he uses have elemental effects, and you just sort of swap between them, and that's really just how it works, and it's more of a linear progression in that sense. I'm curious, but it is cool conceptually, almost like it's a bit like the I want to say like the glue gun in a way in Prey, where yes, you can use it to freeze up enemies. You can't use it to damage them, but you freeze up enemies, or you can use it to build platforms and get around the map. I like that combination in a weapon where it has utility, but also offensive capabilities. They do talk about stealth mechanics as well, and I'll see what some of you guys are saying about this in a bit, but they do talk about stealth mechanics. You can choose, they say they want to have those water cooler talk moments where you're like, oh, I stealthed through this entire thing, or oh, I actually talked my way out of this situation, or I went in guns blazing and just shot everything up, which that is a good improvement from Mass Effect. In Mass Effect 3, you were able to, and I think Mass Effect 2, you were able to do takedowns. If you were behind cover and there's a guy on the other side, you could kind of bop him over the head or behind the back, but every enemy in the place would get alerted, and then you would just end up in a firefight almost every time. So Exodus having stealth, and there's certain builds that you can do, and they said there's certain armor sets that you could put on, which is really cool. There's companions that are dedicated to stealth, also very cool. So I like all of that. Do you know the glorious game they promised have 20 background stories and end up like crap because kicked it to the curb? Anthem. Anthem was a big miss in the direction. I put a lot of time into Anthem thinking you actually get something good out of it, but unfortunately the legendaries in that game have a hard time. That's sort of what I see all the time with Starfield, right? Is people going, yeah, I spent 100 hours in it. The game sucks. I was just waiting for it to get good. It's like, man, you didn't find that out after 15 hours, maybe 20 hours of playing it. Took you 100 to realize it wasn't going the way you wanted. Interesting. Anthem, that's kind of reminds me of that with you and Anthem. But Anthem, like, Anthem is a game because it's sort of this live service and it's this looter shooter type. You expect that the end game should be a lot more exciting, just in the sense that you're getting more legendaries and cooler loot and cooler gear, all that sort of stuff. I believe the service is being shut down soon too. I wouldn't be surprised. Would not be surprised, especially when EA is going to look to cut costs because of this deal. I'm not keeping that online. It's just extra money. Let it go. Now, you do have Remnant technology. That's where I got Remnant from. So there's Remnant technology, and this is the area where there's a lot of choice and consequence. And this to me is sort of really cool conceptually, because they mentioned that you'll find, and part of the game is trying to uncover this Remnant technology and how can you use that sort of for the good of humanity or for more selfish causes. And there's big choice and consequence associated with it. It's not necessarily, it's a tool. And I love the idea that they're trying to approach it as this stuff is super advanced and it's really sophisticated and it can do a lot and it's very impactful for the world that Exodus takes place in. But it's more about the way that it's used versus what it actually does, right? It's the technology in and of itself is not evil, but it can be used for evil or more selfish purposes. And they do mention, they don't go into too much detail, but they do mention that there are weighty choices surrounding how you use it. And they said some people, such as companions, may disagree or agree with certain choices that you make in that regard. How far that goes and the complexity of it, and more importantly to me, I feel like games with choice and consequence kind of get into this habit of, well, if you do X, Y, and Z, then your companion leaves you. But if you do these other things, then your companion's going to stay with you. Whoa! Right? And it's kind of this binary decision choice that you have versus you look at, for example, what a game like Detroit Become Human is supposed to do with that butterfly effect and all those branching things, and this causes this, which causes this, which causes that. A lot more intriguing gameplay. That's what Baldur's Gate thrives in. Baldur's Gate 3. And to the same extent, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2. A lot more choice and consequence in all of those games because certain things lead to other things, lead to other things. I would hope that some of the choices here are a little bit less binary, and obviously a lot of that does come from how the companions are written. So if you do have companions that you really just don't care about, then unfortunately, no matter what they say, yes or no, you're not going to care. But the idea of, for example, a certain companion getting frustrated with the way that you used some of this remnant technology that you're able to find, they leave your party, then you get to an encounter where, guess what, that specific companion skill set would be very handy, and you have to find a way around it. And yeah, maybe you get a worse result because of it. That is a lot more interesting to me than that companion just leaves and now you can't play with them, or that companion leaves and now you get faced with a choice, but guess what? You do have a magical MacGuffin over here that you basically go, like, if this is the normal trajectory of decisions, instead of going like this, or rather going straight across, if the companion were here, you just go like this, right? It needs to go like that. off in a different way, off on a different trajectory. That's a lot more engaging. Companions that are stealthy, I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah, I guess that's, I mean, they do actually show, I don't know if I'll be able to find it specifically. I should be able to. I think it's the section where they talk about stealth, and they do have some gameplay footage that they show. Yeah, you can actually watch, if you see, that companion goes invisible, and then he pops up, and he stealth takedowns that while you take out that guy. So, you can clear a room, and obviously these are the only 2 guards that are here, so you can clear a room by doing that, and I love it. And what's interesting about it as well is, I don't know, maybe this is sort of a very early on and it's pre-recorded, right? I mean, obviously it's pre-recorded, but like it's pre-done in the sense that, you know, you have kind of a scripted stealth tutorial, but I do like the idea that he teleports up to do his own takedown before the player character, right? A lot of times in these games, I think The Last of Us actually does this, The Last of Us 2 especially, is when you, the player character, take out an enemy, there's a chance that your AI follower will then follow suit and also take out another enemy that's nearby. This, it seems like he just did it on his own. And that might be because, I mean, he's using some kind of invisibility tech, but that might be because he is one of said stealthier companions. And there's a lot of little details like that that you can listen to when they are talking about certain features of the game. They do throw in some nice footage that you can take a lot away from if you watch it and you observe it closely for things such as that. So there you go. They were asked if combat is going to be more strategic or cinematic. They said that they're going for a mix of a bunch of things. They want it to feel cinematic. They want it to, like, the combat to feel strategic. They want it to be a lot of different things. I think that goes without saying. That's one of the questions that they answered, but they're aiming for one thing that they did aim for is that they want to have sort of this observe, you see what's going on, you plan, you execute that plan, and then you have this kind of oh crap moment where things go awry and you then have to solve your way out of it, which I like that mentality. It alludes to something such as Dishonored, right? I think we've all had in games where you think there's no possible way that this can go wrong and you're ready to jump into it. For me, that's always a game like Dishonored. You're ready to go. And I remember sitting down. I was doing the Golden Cat mission actually in Dishonored, and I was up in these rafters, and that was one of the things that they showed off from the demo for Dishonored 2. They showed off during the demo, and I was like, I'm gonna do this exactly how they did. Like, he's gonna walk out to the balcony, and then I'm gonna wind blast him out, and then I'm gonna make a dramatic exit from it. And I'm creeping around, and I go through this vent, and I peep through a door hole, and then suddenly I thought I had taken out the guard that was nearby, but the AI actually expanded its patrol route because it realized that a guy was missing. So one of them expanded their patrol. So I'm sitting there crouching, peeping through a door hole, and then suddenly behind me, while I'm peeping through it, there's some guard screaming, I got him over here! And then suddenly everybody's on high alert, and I have to go through, and then I just start, like, stabbing and shooting at everybody. I'm doing this, smacking them, slapping them. That's like the wind blast that power that you get. And I'm flinging people across the room. And that's honestly one of the most fun moments. So if they're able to capture some of those, like, immersive sim elements that Dishonored had, all the better. All the better. That would be sick. And then as far as enemy variety goes, for those of you who aren't familiar with the game, they do have what's called the Rot. And the Rot is sort of this entity that's coming in. It's corrupting technology. It's a bit Horizon Zero Dawn, like, I guess you could say. But you have this Rot that's coming in. It's corrupting technology, and it's making some very important pieces too. Like, they have terraforming engines. That's where all the humans live on a certain planet, and it's corrupting that as well. So you're trying to stop this and find out excuse me, you're trying to stop this and find out what's causing it, what's going on. And the rot over time, they said the farther that you go away from, your human planet, the more dangerous things get, and that will include rot infested enemies, which I think is super sick because they can go in a lot of different directions with how it might corrupt them and how it might change their combat behaviors if they are handling the AI to work different based on enemy type, and it's not really just like you're a melee enemy and you're a shooter enemy, if there's a bit more complexity there, but also in terms of the attacks that they use, the abilities that they have, and how you need to fight against them. So that's really cool, and that'll provide enemy variety throughout the game. And then lastly, they said that side quests are critical to their overall vision for the game, and this is always a relief because especially open world games, they often struggle when their side content does not hold up. And I find that one of the biggest reasons that I personally get bored of open worlds is because you're walking around, you're like, man, I just saved this random person from this random dungeon for the 18th time and I just don't care. Or I got your magical dagger, or I found your enchanted spoon. And you don't care about the enchanted spoon. And they're going off about how blah, 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 like these life stories, and you're like, the whole time. And we're all guilty of this at some point where you're listening and there's an NPC that has this over dramatic story and you're just sitting there comfortable with your controller in hand, and you're just like, yeah, okay, skip, right? We've all had those moments. And so they said that the side content is critical to their overall vision. That means a couple things. One, they're spending a lot of time on it. They want it to be meaningful. But they said you don't need to engage in all of it, right? If there's a certain companion that you like, engage with them. Have fun. Play. Go take on their side quests and their personal missions to get to learn more about them. If you take on some of them, you'll feel more connected to the universe, is what they said. You'll grow closer with companions. And of course, if you just want to find some cool stuff, side missions are an option. Go out and explore and find some cool stuff. Hey, welcome, Chris. Thank you for stopping by. We're talking about Exodus. We're going through everything revealed from the new developer diary that came out recently. Developer Q&A, I should say. And there were a lot of really cool details, but we just got to the end of that. So they talked about side quests, and also the last but not least, but you can actually wishlist it now on Steam, PlayStation, and Xbox. So you can go out and wishlist the game, which of course it is good for developers to wishlist games because it does help to gauge interest in it. Also allows it to get more popularity because you can see, sort of the popular upcoming games. And I think, at least on Steam, I think that's usually a result of wish lists, how many people are following it, right, on Steam pages and storefronts, as well as when it does get closer, the actual sales of it, right? How is it selling in terms of pre-orders? But wish listing is good for developers. If for no other reason, then it kind of gives them a bit of a confidence boost, right? If they see a lot of wish lists coming in for their game, gives them a confidence boost. High morale means they're more inspired to work on the game. So something like this would highly recommend. And if you are interested, you can actually, if you buy the $80 version of the game, I think it is, you get access to the Founders Edition of the game. And the Founders Edition will let you play a little bit early and will also give you some Discord access and some other goodies as well. So if you are interested, now normally I'm against pay to play early. If anything, I would get the Collector's Edition, which also comes with that benefit, just because I'm very interested in this. But just for those of you who are interested, again, I wouldn't recommend it. But the other reason this is a bit of a unique scenario, I will say. I will be someone can call me a hypocrite and crop me out. But this is a smaller studio that's working on this project. They're already charging, I think, $60 for the base game, not the new price of $70 for games. And for that reason, between being a new studio, a very ambitious project, and I think it's technically an indie project, that is something that I'm much more keen to support and pay a higher amount for than, say, buying a $100 version of this massive new Call of Duty that's saying if you pay $100 you get to play 2 days early. That I don't like. I would put this in a bit of its own category. So there you go. What does the collector's edition look like? Good question. Good question. Here, let's pull that up actually. So you do get some cool goodies. Let's see. Wish list now. The collector's edition is apparently hard to find. Apparently hard to find. I wonder if they took it down. Nope, at least from searches, that's very interesting. At least from searches, even if you go to their website, if you head on over to their website here, they have the wishlist button, but they do not have... Yeah, so you have time dilation, massive choices, but they don't have... Yeah, this is part of the expanding universe too. They have the Traveler's Handbook, an encyclopedia. They have a new thing that's coming, which is really, really neat. There's a tabletop RPG. The book. But no, can't find it. Cannot find it. So there you go. Might be too late. Anyway. I will keep spending some time to try to find that actually, just because I am curious. Did I hear right? Damarco going to pre-order a game and buy a microtransaction? Yeah, maybe. I wanted to get in on the Founders Edition, but I think I might have missed it. I literally can't find it. Yeah, so there you go. Anyway, that is all to say. I can't wait for this game. This and The Expanse, I'll be set for like a year. I'm glad that you'll have a solid year from both of these seemingly really big ambitions. Yo, what I missed, I'm gonna have to catch the replay. Quite a bit. We got through a lot of stuff today, which was fun. They've been really forthcoming too. They're putting a lot into this project with the book and everything. Yeah, there's a lot of lore that's going into it. So they're really passionate. They want a whole world, and it's also backed by Wizards of the Coast, is the publisher. So that to me is pretty interesting as well, because obviously you think Wizards of the Coast, you think a universe like Magic the Gathering, or of course Dungeons and Dragons, which those are massive universes in and of themselves. So they have a pool of resources and kind of lore masters, I'm sure, that can maybe jump in if they do need the help. You lost a chance to be a founder. I thought they had extended it. I thought I saw something about it recently, but there you go. I lost a chance to be a founder, so no founder for me, which is a shame. I would absolutely support them, and I should have done it sooner, but there you go. Had to strike while the iron's hot. But anyway, that'll be all for this episode. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Really appreciated those of you who stopped by for the solo show. Haven't done one of these for a while, and I know that most people come because they like Holly and not myself, because I'm boring and take everything too seriously, so appreciate that. August 30th, I'm a Founder. I'll share with you, different from the collector's edition. You can share founders? I'm here for you. Yeah, apparently. Can you share founders access? Is that because that's an interesting thing. That would be an interesting thing. No, you can't share. No, then don't share it. Gosh, no. Don't share it. Chris, you're way too excited to share something like that. But anyway, that'll be all for this episode. Thank you guys for joining. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope to see you all next week, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as always. Again, I know Holly's why I will come, but for those of you that came here today, I'm grateful. Have a good night, everybody. As soon as I could find, there we go. Good night, everybody. I was mistaking it for The Expanse. I was getting those confused for anyone that might still be lingering. That's what I was trying to check out. You get early adopter stuff for exclusive beta access for Osiris Reborn. So there's a confusion. And that's what the collector's edition is. Also, same with the prices as well. Worth mentioning, just to clarify. The prices as well There are none for Exodus yet, but they are available for the Expanse game. So there you go.